Hi. So, this is not your usual episode in Beyond the Feed. We have no guests. It's just me right now. And why is that? You guys might be wondering. Why is it just Champ talking to the camera, to the viewers? And that's because this will be the last episode of Beyond the Feed, season 1. Yeah. So, I'll introduce myself for the last time on Beyond the Feed season 1. My name is Champ Abela. Not 18 years old. I'm 19 years old. I keep forgetting. I'm 19 years old. Grade 12 Humes in Homeschool Global under the VCIS, which is Victory Christian International School. Anything else about me? I would say I'm a musician for MMBC, Metro Manila Bible Community. I also do tech for Metro Manila Bible Community. Um, what else do I do? I video edit and I have a bunch of hobbies, but my main passions, I would say, would be music and graphic design and video editing. So yeah, I guess that's about it about me, right? I'm not really sure if there's anything else. But yeah, so to start off this episode, I want to reiterate what Beyond the Feed really is for, firstly, before we dive into how it came to be and, what it's about. So, yeah, so I made Beyond the Feed the podcast for my grade 12 culminating activity, which is like a big project that you have to do for school, for the grade 12 people here in the Philippines. I think most of our viewers are Filipino, so you guys should know. But yeah, so this is for my culminating activity, and it just started off like that. Na parang, oh, I have to do a culminating activity. So like, let me do something that I know I can do. And what came into my head while like brainstorming was podcast. I chose to make a podcast for my project because mainly two things. So thing number one. Thing number one would be I've always wanted to make content that I could share to people out here on social media, online platforms. Could be anything, YouTube, Spotify. I've always wanted to make content that could give people value, that could give them something new to learn, Because ever since I was a kid, I've always watched YouTubers like Dan TDM, Stampy Longhead, etc., etc. A lot of YouTubers, and nowadays I'm always watching like life vlog YouTubers or video essays about like deep topics, stuff like that. So I was like, I want to make one of those, I want to do that. I want to do that and share what I have, whatever I have to. I Let me roll that back. I want to share whatever I have to people out here in the world. And that's kind of how it came to be. Like, I've always listened to podcasts for a while now. I would say like 2 years I've been listening to podcasts. And, it's pretty cool because you just record and then you talk. You don't really have to worry about like oh, does this shot look good? Unlike, for example, like making a movie, this has to look good, that has to look good, this has effects. A podcast is just you're talking to, actually, originally a podcast is just audio, so like I'm not, this is new because like people like videos nowadays, but I'm just yapping. Oh my goodness. Okay, back on track. Why podcast? Yeah, so I wanted to just share what I have to people out there. And another thing of why I decided to make a podcast for my community activity is because I really like, despite being introverted, oh, shocker, but despite being introverted, I really like, what you call it, interviewing people, talking to people, and really like having discussions about different things in life. So let me give you a story. For example, I would talk to my mom Hi, Mama, if you're listening to this. I talked to my mom about like different topics, all under the every, what's the term? What's the figure of speech? Everything under the clouds. I think if that's the right term. But yes, basta. I would talk to my mom about anything, really anything. Tapos most of the time we would get deep and stuff like that. And yeah, so yeah, I really like just talking to people a lot and learning new things from them, or maybe even me being able to share new things to them, which is wonderful too. And yeah, I would say those are like the two main things of why I chose to make a podcast for my culminating activity. Because I could have made anything else. I could have made a documentary film. I could have made some other kind of project that I can do, but I was like, it's gonna, like, if I make for example, a film, that's what my teacher suggested. I was like, if I make a film, it's gonna be a one-time thing, you know, like people are gonna watch that and then most likely forget about it. So I was thinking, I was like, oh, what's something that could stick, you know, something that could really make an impact to the viewers, to the consumers, you could say, of what I make, to the people that are gonna enjoy whatever project I make. So yeah, that's how this podcast came to be, or at least how I brainstormed Beyond the Feed. And it's titled Beyond the Feed because it's like, beyond your feed. So, everyone naman nowadays has social media and they're browsing 24/7, almost 24/7. I do that too. And like we get a lot of information through our feed, a lot of stuff pops up, and that's how we learn about the everything about the world now. And so that's why I titled my podcast Beyond the Feed, because it's the conversations, it's the narratives, it's the stories that you only really get when you really go out there and talk to people and really learn stuff about from them, or even teach to them. Na parang, yeah, that's where Beyond the Feed comes from. Moving on from how it came to be, what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. Anyways, so here we are now. You're listening to this podcast. I hope so. And yeah, I hope you guys learned something out of this podcast. I just want to say that real quick before moving on to the bigger part of this episode. So, yeah. So what is this? What is this episode about? What is this concluding episode? Why does he have no guest? So I wanted to do a very like kind of commemorative parang thanking you guys. Medyo kind of episode na really is just me and you, like no, there's no guest here that I'm interviewing, asking questions about. Like I want to have an episode na you guys, the viewers, get to know me naman, get to know my story naman, because that's still a narrative. That's still social media has impacted me too. And yeah, I wanna share my learnings when I made this podcast, my story, and to stay in theme, of course, because of course I have to stay in theme. This is what season 1 is about. Yeah, so how social media has influenced my life, and yeah, we'll see. This episode is pretty raw. I don't have a script. I only have an outline. And most episodes I have with my guests, I write like themes of what we're gonna talk about. For me, I just this came out. I wrote this right before recording this. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. All right. So yeah, I want to start with my learnings, what the stuff I learned through the making of this podcast. So I wrote here in my notes the struggles of figuring out how to upload, making art. Yeah, so about the podcast, of course, like a lot of podcasts have like a team behind them, They have managers and designers behind them, video editors. But most of this stuff I've been doing by myself. I know, but shout out to a few of my friends out here. I hope you guys are listening to this podcast. You guys have helped a lot in designing the art for this podcast. So really, the struggle starting this podcast compared to like just moving with it was harder. Honestly, the start of making this podcast was harder than the just making. You know, so I would say what took me the longest when I started this podcast was the art. So if you guys go on the Instagram pages, the Facebook page, you'll see like there's a bunch of like pub mats there and graphic designs on like the yeah, to graphic designs for the podcast. Even on Spotify you can see the title cover and the logos, stuff like that. Honestly, that took a while to conceptualize. I had to figure out the colors and the the fonts, all of that. Graphic design is hard. And that was one of the struggles when I was making this podcast because I'm more well versed in video editing rather than graphic designing. I'm better at moving pictures than pictures that don't move. So that was really something to figure out when I was making this podcast. And I would say I've grown a lot in that branch. And that, what's the word? I've grown a lot, voila, in that aspect of like creation. Yeah, creation. I've grown a lot in the aspect of creation and creativity when it comes to graphic designing and figuring out how to make posters look good only using Canva. And because okay, a lot of professionals use software apps like Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, very like not really like beginner friendly options. But yeah, so most of those, actually no, all of those posters except for a few elements were made in Canva. And really figuring out was tough, was really hard because yeah, it's not my forte, but yeah, I would say that's one thing. Through making this podcast, I've grown. And another, what you say, another difficult aspect when making this podcast, I would say was learning how to record and edit a podcast. So the only other time I've dabbled in editing a podcast would be in 2021. So little that was 4 years ago. And I dabbled in podcast making that time for High Night. So High Night in Homeschool Global, it's like an organization by students for the high schoolers. That's why it's called High Night. And High Night Rosses, which is one branch. Me and a few other people started the podcast for that branch back in 2021. And that was the first time I dabbled, I would say, in podcast making. So I would say it's digitally, sorry, no, not digitally. I meant recording and editing, like recording online, I mean, and editing was kind of familiar for me now because I do video editing since 2020. I've been doing video editing since 2020. So, but now like revisiting it, doing this podcast for Beyond the Feed now, it was sort of a struggle because back then I would make videos as if they were like the typical YouTube content with the flashy stuff all over your screen, your captions, all of that. But this podcast was really just I wanted it to be organic and really just raw footage, kind of. Just not heavy editing, just a few cuts here and there to make it easier for the viewer. Yeah, so figuring that out was really fun, I would say. It was really enjoyable naman. And I would say it takes a lot of time to edit these podcasts because 1 hour of footage of podcast the raw footage, the audio and the video. 1 hour of that would take me like at least twice as much. So for example, 1 hour, how long it takes me to edit this is like two of that. So for example, 1 hour is like 2 hours of editing. Yeah. Or maybe even like 3 hours. There's one video, one episode 4, I think, if I remember. Basta the episode with Pastor Glenn, my dad. So you can see the episode is like 1 hour 40 minutes, I think. And that took me from like 11 a.m. till 4 p.m., if I'm correct. So around 5 hours of editing. It took me that long because, well, number one, that was the first episode I had to edit that was that long. And it's one of the longest episodes in Beyond the Feed. And I think an external factor would be it was so hot that day. Grabe, the Philippines heat is it's crazy. But yeah, it was hard to edit the episode in the heat. I was dying. But yeah, that was like one struggle I would say that was really hard. And the episode that came after that, kay Tita Tessa, that took shorter than I expected. Mainly because, well, for one, I did the intro live, so that was easier. I didn't have to record a super long voiceover. Did I even record? I can't even remember right now. But yeah, I didn't really have to do much voiceovers because the voiceovers take a while, like 10 minutes to record because of retakes. And I think it's also because I learned a bunch of editing techniques, video editing techniques on Premiere Pro that made my workflow faster. So yeah, that's where was I? Why am I talking about this? Okay. That was a bunch of stuff about editing and recording a podcast. Ooh, wait. Recording something I learned recording audio live. So in the two episodes that were recorded live, yung kay Pastor Glenn, Tita Tessa, that was my first time recording audio live in a podcast setting. So I've never done that actually. So I've only ever recorded audio for music purposes. I've never recorded for podcast purposes. And I would say it turned out pretty good naman. And there were some issues in one of the episodes kay Tita Tessa. I think the cables were messing up. There's a section there in the middle of the podcast where it's like going like that. So that was like when I was editing it, I was like, oh no. I found that issue when I was setting up the microphones pa lang, but I didn't think it would reappear. So yeah, that's one thing I learned, I guess, when recording live. But yeah, thankfully, I know how to do those stuff naman because I've been doing tech stuff, sound engineering stuff for my church for a while now. But yeah, okay, what's the next part of my outline? I'm going way off track. Let me see that real quick. I wrote here how each episode made a personal impact. Thank you, champ from the past, for giving me an outline to follow. So yeah. Okay, each episode really made, I would say, a personal impact for me, and I hope it did for you too. But yeah, let's go over each episode. So psychology, personal impact. I really learned a lot in that psychology episode, recording with Dr. Hazel. Hi, Dr. Hazel. I hope you're watching this. Ate Hazel pala. But I hope you're watching this episode. But yeah. Yeah, I think it was one of the bigger episodes, like in terms of technicality. No, in terms of technical stuff, like things to learn because it's psychology. So for information, dear viewer, psychology is like one of my interests, you could say. I do consider taking psychology for college. BA Psych to be specific. But yeah, so, that psychology, recording that and talking with Ate Hazel for that psychology episode was really interesting for me because um I hope I can recall it because I haven't listened to it again. Oh yeah, by the way, I listened to my own podcast. Wow. But yeah, the psychology episode, one thing I really learned from that was the habits. How important it is for you to like how important habits are actually. Yeah, so she did say there like bad habits, you can't just get rid of them, and that's really true. I had siguro I would share with you guys. I've had a bad habit of sleeping really late for a couple of years now. So how late would be like 5 a.m. at the worst. The worst I did though was 9, 7 a.m. Let's just go in between. Let's say 8 a.m. That's the worst like latest I've slept. But yeah, so that bad habit was like really bad. It was hard to break because na-notice ko like every night, it's like I had extra energy. Parang di ako makatulog. This is not related to social media, I just realized, but it's okay. Um, yeah, so I would have a hard time sleeping because I had so much energy. And how did I replace that habit? Well, for one, um, I really made it so like parang so sleeping late, I would say from what I've observed is due to a lot of things. So it could be because you have a lot of like extra energy na you have to consume. It could be because you have work that you have to wake up early or sorry, yeah, you're like night shift and stuff like that. But okay, so for my scenario, a lot of the factors of why I slept late would go back down to like how I use my energy, how I use my time throughout the day. And for example, one thing, like even today, it would cause me to sleep late. If I take a nap in the afternoon, it causes me to sleep later on. So correct me if I'm wrong, but so we're said to have like we need like average like adults, I think, need 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day. So what I did to break the habit of sleeping late, I was, I had to fix the habit of not using my energy efficiently throughout the day. What does that mean? What does that mean, champ? That means I had to really use my energy wisely and properly. What does that mean? You still didn't define that. Okay, let's go. So, how did I do that? Back then, I would say like I didn't use my energy at all. I would slack around most of the day, do my work for a couple of hours, and then slack around some more. And that led to me feeling restless during the night because yun, like think of it like a battery. This battery is like full, diba? This is your energy levels. Hinaf ko lang siya. I still have the other 50% left when I'm supposed to be sleeping. So, yun tuloy. I would stay up till 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and have a hard time sleeping. But nowadays, I try my best na parang throughout the day, I'm really like decreasing the energy level and really like being tired by the time. Di naman yung sobrang tired na burnout, pero like tired and wanting to sleep. Okay, so let's go back to the theme of this episode, of this season of Beyond the Feed and the social media. How did the psychology episode like help me? In terms of social media and psychology, mm, I would say right now, I need to get back into the habit of using social media less because it's leading me to doom scrolling late at night. I just talked about sleeping early. I sleep early naman. Well, not early, but like I don't reach 2 a.m. I sleep at like 1 a.m. at the latest now. Pero that's like rare. Uh nawawala talaga ako sa topic. Sorry. But yeah, let's go back. So yeah, in the psychology episode, I really learned the parang the habits, especially right now, the social media habit I have. I don't like it. I don't like how I've been consuming social media recently. Na every time I'm bored, I would open social media. Every time, like, di na ako, di ako makasettle sa feeling of being bored. So yeah, I think that's something I can take right now from the episode of psychology. Na replacing that bad habit, I would say it's a bad habit. Next, commodification of wonder. So that episode naman was with my cousin, si Ate Isa. She's in Armenia. Hello, Ate Isa. I hope you're watching this. Yeah, commodification of wonder. Yeah, I think it's a really great question whether or not we're commodifying wonder, the sense of wonder, in today's world, in the 21st century, in 2025, because of the rise of, not even the rise of social media, because social media is on top, you know. A lot of people, especially here in the Philippines, like to post everything on social media. And a lot of them forget to take their time to, at least this is from what I've observed, a lot of them forget to take their time to really just take in the wonders of this world. Like, there's nothing wrong with posting everything if you really want to on social media, especially if you're a content creator. Pero it comes to a certain point nga talaga. I agree in the episode na parang the sense of wonder is like something you can just get now from social media, and I don't think so. I don't think it should be like that. Like, we should really go out there and experience things. This is why Beyond the Feed exists. We should beyond the feed. No pun intended. But yeah, it's like we should really go out there and have conversations, real conversations with people out there, people around you. It doesn't even have to be people you don't know or people like out there. It could be just, your friend, and just have a conversation with them and really like enjoy that moment and like not have to turn everything into a social media post. Grabe no, it's so funny because I'm Gen Z. That goes into the other topic, but it's so funny because I'm Gen Z and we're like labeled as like, you guys use social media all the time, on the phone all the time. But I think a lot of Gen Z could really use. I sound like a parent. Kaka-cellphone mo yan. But a lot of a lot of Gen Z could really use the parang time off their phone. Even I could use that and just take in what you can see around you. Enjoy that sense of wonder and enjoyment, fulfillment from just, yeah, what the Lord has given us. Speaking of what the Lord has given us, wow, segue. Yeah, I'm gonna go into the theology episode with my dad. So honestly, there's so much I learned from that recording that episode, and there's so much you guys can learn. It's really a lot to break down. It's almost 2 hours of the episode. So honestly, I think I have to listen to that more to digest like each piece of it. But it kind of goes back to the psychology. Because yun nga, yung kinote ng dad ko na, what verse was that? I forgot. But like yung parang not everything, wait, not everything is beneficial. Ganun. Na totoo nga talaga na sometimes we overuse social media to the point na napapahamak na sarili natin. We harm ourselves to the point that we're even addicted to the to browsing social media, to that endless like ganun lang scrolling. And yeah, social media has really like helped a lot of churches. So yun nga, we talked about that in that episode na how social media has helped churches and people to connect with each other despite, distance, despite other boundaries apart from distance. But Totoo, on the personal level naman, not in the church level, social media, at least from what the Bible says, parang dapat ano siya, parang it's permissible, pero parang it could reach a point na hindi na siya beneficial, na sobra na siya para sa iyo. Now, going honestly, yun lang yung sabi ko sa episode na yun because it's really long. And I think you guys could benefit more from watching that. Because my dad, excuse me, my dad really breaks it down. Breaks it down. So, next, communicating through generations, my episode with Tito Tessa. This is one of my favorite episodes. All of them are my favorite, of course. But yeah, communicating through generations. Yeah, I think for me, my learnings in that is that we always highlight, at least sa nakikita ko, the Gen Zs and the older people, the conservative, more conservative people versus Gen Z, palaging ganun yung pinapag-usapan. Gen Z is like too weak, they're not resilient. And then the older generation's like, oh, no, ganito, ganyan, you know. But yeah, what I learned from talking with Tita Tessa. So, a little background. We already kind of talked about that topic before when I had family dinner with a bunch of my family members and she was there. We talked for a while. Yeah, so we brushed on that topic as one of the things we had as one of the topics in our conversation during the family dinner. And yeah, social media could really be used as a way to communicate across generations. Na parang we don't have to really villainize or really like, mali yung social media na yan. Kasi, you know, what I really like was when we talked about how Gen Z, my generation, connects through social media nowadays. Na parang it bridges the gap of communication. So yeah, episode 5, communicating through generations, was like a really nice conversation for me because there's really a gap between Gen Z and older generations, especially when it comes to social media. So, for example, a lot of the older generation have a hard time with media literacy and being able to tell the fake news from the real news. So that's one thing we have to uh, com- fight, fix. I would say would be the right word. That's one thing we have to like help the older generation with. And another thing is the newer generation, my generation. A lot of us are too stuck to our phones. Na di na namin nakakakwentuhan sila lolo lola, you know. Mahirap na yun. I personally struggle with that sa totoo lang. Na parang mahirap makipag halubilo. Is that the right word? Socialize. Mahirap makipag-socialize. Especially with like, with the lolo lolas. Because their generation is really vastly different from mine. For one, their generation didn't have social media. So the social media culture that is new to my generation and even millennials is like not present for their generation. So there's that cultural gap for one. But yeah, communicating across generations, social media has really helped that. I've been able to call with sometimes we call my lola who lives in Masbate, and that's been able to bridge the gap. Actually, my lola herself, she browses social media. It's so funny because like you don't really think of that, but even my lola. So I guess yeah, we really live in the generation of social media now. Anyways, I want to move on from the topic. I'm spending way too much time in that topic. Let's move on to the last episode. The latest episode that came out before this episode, which was with Gab Abangan. Gab Abangan. Abangan nyo. Ang corny ko. But yeah. So it was about music naman. And honestly, it wasn't really like an interview for me. It was more just me talking to him because he's my friend. Pero I would say one thing I really took away from that conversation when it comes to social media and music. Ooh, I really liked what he shared na parang when it comes to art, when it comes to creative stuff, or like just posting what you want to share in social media, when it comes to that kind of stuff, just post it, you know? So, like, it was a really great reminder for me because, yun, I started this podcast, and this is kind of also a way for me to express my art, my creativity. And sometimes I'd be too focused. I said in the episode, I think. But yeah, let me just say that again. Sometimes I'd be so focused on the statistics. I'd be opening the website to check the statistics of this, and it's like, oh, there's not that much streams. There's konti lang today, and I would get affected by that. But hearing what when he said that, na parang you just show people what you want to share. And I was like, oh, ano? Yeah. So it took me back to when I started this podcast. Yeah, na parang I just wanted to share what I learned. I wanted to share things na people could learn from, you know. So yeah, I think that's it for this section of this episode. So yeah, let me just conclude that. So each episode, really, they making recording these episodes with those wonderful people really made like gave me a lot of learnings. And sometimes it was a struggle, the scheduling, because of course this is still a school project currently. So I'm trying to chase after a deadline. I'm not gonna let the deadline chase me. So yun, parang there was struggles with struggling, and even guests that I couldn't get into the show na kasi hirap talaga ng scheduling and all of that. Communication, not communication. What's that? Communication with them. But yeah, moving on from my learnings through this podcast, I want to share to you guys naman, my story naman. So, like how social media has impacted my life. So, we're gonna start way back. Not really way back. We're gonna start 5 years ago. Start with the pandemic. That's where we're gonna start. So, yeah, I think everyone here has experienced the pandemic. Who hasn't naman? But I want to start with that because for me, that was I never really used social media before that. Barely. Like I posted art at most, just art. But yeah, like that was when like the course of my life kind of changed. I think everyone's life changed, but yeah. Let's just focus on my story because that's what we're talking about. But yeah. Um yeah, the pandemic really affected how I do things, and you know, I came into the pandemic 13 because that was March here in the Philippines when the lockdown happened. That was March. So I was 13 that time and I turned 14 the next month. So yeah, parang I was really just a wee little teenager, a wee little adolescent going into the pandemic. And the thing about that is adolescence is really like this period in your life where a lot of things change. A lot of things change. And one of those big things, one of the big things in adolescence is that it's one of the key moments where you have to socialize. I At least this is in research, because that's what my paper was about. Yeah, but it's one of those key moments na we're socializing with especially your peers was really important. And yun nga, what's crazy is that for my age group, the pandemic happened just as we got into that stage of life. And that really, I wouldn't say stunted, pero being locked to your house, every day when you're in this period in your life where you need socialization, you need connection, real connection with real people. It was really weird na your only source of connection in the pandemic was online or your family who was with you. I know not it is not universal, but for me, yeah, social media was only the only way for me to connect with people despite the pandemic in my adolescence. I'm still a young adult right now, so I'm not saying it's done. Pero in my younger adolescence period, the really developmental stage, mm, it was really a struggle na you're trying to look for connections, but you can't make them because everything is online, you know? Like it's not it's real but it's not authentic, if that's the right word. So social media was like the only way for me to connect with people, to connect with friends. So yeah, 2020 came along, pandemic happened, lockdown happened, and during that time until like 2020 to 2021, I was like I had four close friends. So I'm thinking if I should name drop. Yeah, I'm sharing my story. I want to be transparent. Yeah. So I had four of my closest friends that time, which was Faith. Oh, yeah, not four. There was four of us total because that's including me. So my friend group was like Faith, Hannah, and Sean. So Sean was like a friend of mine 2019 pa before pandemic. But I really got close to him during the pandemic. And really, yun nga, social media was really just the way for me to connect with them kasi I can't see them eh. So like we would always play games, stay up all night playing games, or just calling and talking. And I think that's where it came from from the episode of communicating through generations. Gen Z really just like staying on call with friends all whole day. I think that's where it started. A lot of us Gen Zers really just like would like to stay on call with our friends, just talking and talking, or just existing together on call. Because yeah, we couldn't hang out in real life. We couldn't see each other in real life, or if we could, there were so much restrictions. So like it was really hard to. So yeah, but despite that, I had them. I had my three friends, my closest friends. I mean, despite me having them though, I still felt so isolated and so alone. And you could say, champ, you had your family naman with you in the house. Yeah, but the thing was like, it was adolescence. I I needed to find that connection with new people, and that only came online, and that was really hard. And so yeah, fast forward 2022. 2022, the world started opening up again. The vaccines started coming out, so it was less restricted because people were getting vaccinated, and COVID was less. Cases dropped, immunity went up, and it was weird, to be honest, being able to see people again, not on a screen anymore, not through Zoom, and it was really weird, honestly. A lot of my friends were up till then were online, you know. So parang suddenly you can see them now, and it felt weird na being able to see them again and interact. And our socialization skills were like, drop down. Parang hindi ganun kaganda. Medyo awkward. Pero it was still happy. And where am I going with this? Yeah, so during the for me, during the pandemic, social media really helped me to connect with people. But I really had that sense of like, parang hindi authentic yung friendship. So yeah, going back to those few friends, we had a lot of arguments. You could say it's because teenager naman kayo, it's normal. Yeah. But at the same time, a lot talaga just because of like disputes online. So we would argue because like, oh, this person wasn't talking in call. They were muted the whole time. What if they were just listening, you know? Parang ganun. We would argue because like, basta over random stuff. And I think that's because, yun, it was online. For me, like, those friendships, they're now gone. You know, they're those three friends. They're not my friends anymore now, and yeah, a big part of that was because it was developed online through social media. So I know there's people out there who develop friendships through social media and they're still friends till now. And that's great. That's really good for them. But yeah, like for me, my story is like social media has been a way for me to connect with people, but it's never really like it doesn't replace the real thing. I still felt lacking in those friends that I made online. So parang I didn't really know them when I met them online. I didn't know how to act around them when I met them online because I would see them through a screen and like for example on through the screen we're like so goofy and so energized. Tapos in real life we're like, hi, who are you? Ganun. So learning how to re-socialize after the pandemic was kind of difficult. Of course, it wasn't too difficult because of course we had the year I had the years before I turned 13. Na I already knew how to socialize and all of that. But parang it was really weird because yeah, 2022 medyo open na pero not yet super. 2023 was when pandemic is basically gone. And that was when I wasn't friends with Sean anymore. And Sean was my friend for one, two, at that time, 3 years. He's been my friend for 3 years at that time. And that's when he just let go of me like that. And that's when I realized, I was like, wait, these friends I've had just purely through social media, they never really felt authentic to me. And yeah, like, ganun. Hirap. I don't know where I'm at a loss for words right now. I don't know how to explain it. But that has been my journey. So yeah, we're now in 2023 in the storyline. And yeah, it was really a tough time because I had to basically make new friends in real life na. And you go through a pandemic that's like basically 3 years of your life. Parang online lang lahat. It was really hard and awkward to talk to people again face to face. But we pushed through it. I pushed through it. We learned. And yeah. And I think that for me, social media has really taught me that to really value the relationships I have with the people around me, especially in real life. Especially in real life. So, my two current best friends right now, shout out, sila Yan Yan and Sophie from church. Yeah, it's different when you make friends in real life na. and the level of connection is really like different. I don't know any other word for it. It's deeper, I would say. Na in a sense na parang yung friend mo online, yung friends ko before online, parang konting argument lang kami. Okay, friendship over na. Yeah, we're done. We're done being friends. But like, nah. I think it's also because I've matured and grown older. But apart from that, yeah, the authenticity of real life friendships doesn't replace friendships through social media. That's how social media has influenced me personally, because it's always been so. Social media wasn't has never really been like a place for me to put content out. It's always been a place for me to connect with people and really bond with people. And going off of that, apart from friends, connecting with my family too. So right before recording this, I was browsing my computer folders, and I came across a bunch of videos I had in the pandemic. That's where the idea for this episode came actually. Yeah, so I was browsing the folders, and I found this folders like a bunch of videos my parents took during the pandemic. And I was watching them, just enjoying. And this part's not about social media anymore, but yeah, I was browsing them, just enjoying the time. And I realized while watching, I couldn't remember those. It was weird. Ang weird talaga. Kasi masaya naman sa video. My parents are like, we're laughing and all of that. So the multiple the multiple the videos that really hit when it hit resets. Masyado mabilis ng utak ko. Okay. So while browsing those videos, a set of videos like really touched me, or like that's when it really hit me. So I was watching videos of my dad. I don't know if I'll show it in the screen, but yeah, I was watching a video of my dad just recording in his car, and I was like, "What's this video? What is this? What is this about?" And then he was like, "Here we are at Angel's Pizza, buying pizza for para sa handa kasi birthday ni Sham ngayon. It's his 14th birthday. Yay! Woohoo! Ganon. Here we at KFC. Woohoo! Ganon. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can barely remember this. Not because it was so long ago, but it's like, I can only remember the sad parts during the pandemic. I'm opening up to you guys right now. Yeah. Boom. Trauma dump. But yeah, like, whenever I recall the pandemic, if you ask me, oh, what do you remember from the pandemic? I would say, parang, I remember feeling alone and feeling. I'm gonna tie this back to social media later. Just listen, guys. Yeah, I remember just when you ask me, what do you recall from the pandemic? All I could remember was like how scary it was. That COVID was out there, and people were dying. If you ask me what I recall from the pandemic, I would just say na parang all I would recall mostly was like the struggle of feeling isolated, feeling alone, and the only way of connecting with uh, a lot of my loved ones and friends was through social media, through messaging, through calling, through Zooms, and like those videos really like hit me. Kasi yun yung for example the video of my parents just buying food for my birthday. It really hit me because yeah, I couldn't remember it. All I remember was being sad in the pandemic. You know, I struggled with a bunch of stuff with my family, with my parents kasi parang yeah, I didn't do what they wanted. I wasn't doing uh, good things. Pupuyat. Hindi ako nag-aaral. I'm homeschooling eh. So, you know, like when I look back in the pandemic, that's all I remember. I remember the arguments I had with my friends. The times I was so bitter to my parents. I would remember the times that parang I was shaking already because of how sad I felt. And like I couldn't talk. My parents would be asking me na, how are you and all of that. It's like yeah, like really like watching those videos made me cry. My parents don't know this about no my parents don't know this yet. I haven't told them as of recording this. But I don't know if I'm gonna tell them or it should be a surprise. Hi Mama Dada if you're watching this. But yeah. Yun. Yeah, so watching those videos back then, it was like this is where true value lies. This is what's beyond. I sound so corny. I sound like some advertisement. This is really, seriously, yun yung beyond your feed. Yun yung beyond the feed. You know? So, yeah, beyond the feeds about the conversations out there. Those are the connections out there. For me, it's my family talaga. And my friends in real life. Na parang we're living in those times I was so captivated with what I was doing digitally, what I was doing online, and what was happening in my life. I was so sad. To this now I can't even remember na that was what they did for my birthday, 14th birthday. I can't remember my 15th and my 16th celebrations. Wala. It's weird. Parang ganun. So yeah, this has been the reminder. That's what I want to give you guys. So I was talking about beyond the feed being my way of giving you guys something, right? Yeah, by through that, I want to give you guys that na really go out there. Go beyond your feed. I'm corny. Pero seryoso. Stop browsing social media for a moment and evaluate the connections you have around you. You know? Evaluate. Parang masyado malalim evaluate. Just think about the people around you. You know, your family. Or if you're not close with your family, your friends. You know? And yeah, like those are the real connections you have around you. This social media that you have on your phone, it's really just entertainment or a source of income for others or etc etc. Pero through the screen, ano ba talaga? You know? It's the people around you. It's the connections you have. Going back to the video, yeah, so watching this video, I really cried. Parang I wish in those moments, I wish I could go back to those moments and just live them and stop being so captivated with what was going on, how bad I felt, how angry I was towards a person, how upset I became because this guy said something to me, and really just sit there and live that moment na parang just appreciate. Let me close this. Yeah, so sit there and really live in that moment. So I hope that it's a reminder for you guys, for the listeners of this podcast na, yeah, I hope you try and see what's beyond your feed, beyond the feed, beyond your social media, and really connect with those around you, with your loved ones, with your friends. I challenge you right now. I sound like a pastor. I challenge you right now to say to your neighbor, de, seriously, go right now. Pause this episode, come back to it later, finish it, and actually no, let's close on that. Yeah, let's close on that. Let's close this episode. I challenge you right now. You pause. You when this episode is done, you get up, whatever you're doing, if you can, of course, get up and go to someone you're close to right now. May it be your friend, relative. I don't know where you're listening, what what your scenario is. And if you don't have family or friends around you right now, that's okay. You can also reflect. But if you have family and friends right now, go up to them and just talk to them. It's hard because you don't know what to talk about. Pero, kamustahin mo sila? You know, just ask them how they are and live in that moment. It doesn't have to be what social media shows you na sobrang entertaining, sobrang pop of wonder, pop of of entertainment. It doesn't have. It can be boring. You know what you're talking about with whoever you're gonna talk to after this. But yeah, I challenge you right now. Get up after this episode. Get up and talk to someone close to you right now. If you're not close to anyone right now, go call them. Hopefully they're free and they'll answer you. And just talk to them. Because that's really what's beyond your feed. Yeah. So I'm gonna do that after recording this. I'm gonna eat dinner with my family. Yeah. You guys do that. All right. So I'm not really sure how to close this episode, but yeah. I really hope you guys learned something. And that has been Beyond the Feed, Season 1. This is the last episode of Season 1, Beyond the Feed. And yeah, my name is Abela. See you next time, I guess. See you next time.